What's up, music fans? Welcome to another episode of the Vault Podcast, where music still matters, unlike a lot of places. You can find us at thevaultreviews.com. You can contact us via email at thevaultmusic1@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at thevaultmusic1. Follow us on Facebook, and like us on Facebook, I should say. Facebook.com/thevaultrvws. That's thevaultrvws. We couldn't fit reviews in there as a whole word. And check us out on YouTube. If you want to just subscribe to the channel, you'll get alerts anytime the new podcasts are posted. So today's episode, we're going to talk about rivalries. And, you know, the music is supposed to bring people together, but a lot of times it can cause a bunch of chaos. Brent, you got any rivalries to kick us off with?
Oh, the one that kind of came to my mind, did you see this latest thing on the whole Dimebag Darrell desecration?
I did, actually, and Pantera was going to be one of mine, so let's just go with that. Go ahead.
Well, I guess the whole thing's kind of gotten blown out of, like, way out of proportion, from what I've understood and read. I mean, like, all the offending parties and stuff have apologized and all that, and one band actually got blamed for it, and it wasn't even them.
Yeah, that's what I read, and I read, like, one of the members was, like, a former member or something like that. Like,
Yep.
the actual band wasn't even there, but this other guy claimed that he was still with the band or something like that.
Yeah, it was kind of a messed up deal. I read a thing on, I think it was Metal Injection, that was talking about, I guess they've been getting, like, death threats, and their family's been getting rape threats and all sorts of, like, weird, kind of crazy, wild stuff. So
Yeah, I heard that, too. I mean, which is ridiculous. I mean, that's... We're talking now. We're talking a rivalry of fans versus fans, which we can get into that later. But you know, talk about Pantera. You know, that's one of my rivalries is Pantera versus themselves. From Rex Brown and Phil and Vinnie Paul, each one of them's got a different story about something different, about Dime's death or who said what about who, and it's just getting really out of control. And you know, I would like to see them get back together. It's not going to be the original Pantera, but you know, Zakk Wylde's already said he'd step in and fill in the shoes if he had to. But it's not looking like that's going to take place. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, no, it's just sad. I was reading today, I guess Phil's tried to, like, apologize a lot, like, publicly, you know, tried to, you know, kind of mend everything, and I guess, you know, Vinnie Paul's not having anything of it, just absolutely refuses to even talk to him much.
Yeah, that's exactly what. So I don't know that we'll ever get the truth on that, but we were talking about news. You brought up the news story. Let's get into a couple news stories, and then we'll get back to the rivalries. Metallica's got a new project, if you want to call it that they're going to put out on Record Store Day, which is April 18th, by the way. Everybody go out to Record Store Day and support your local record stores. Speaking of local record stores, if you're local to the Springfield, Missouri area, you want to check out Heavy Heads Records. They're going to be opening April 3rd at 10 a.m. for the grand opening, and you can check them out on Facebook. Just check out on the search bar Heavy Heads Records. And I'm hoping they're going to have this. I'm going to have to get a hold of the owner, Dan, and see if he's going to have it. But Metallica's re-releasing their original tape, and it's going to be on a tape format, the No Life Till Leather cassette. And I guess they've remastered it, but they're going to keep it on a cassette, like I said, and they're going to keep the original handwriting, artwork, and all that on there as an exclusive Record Store Day release. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think it's great. I mean, yeah, you know, I guess some people could be like, well, it's kind of cheap, but I mean, at the same time, I think it's awesome. You know, of course, I kind of dig some of that old school nostalgia kind of stuff like that too, though. So, and who releases tapes anymore?
Exactly, like nobody except for maybe some like punk or black metal bands because it's just low budget and they can do it. And you know, people talk crap on Metallica, and we talked about them playing a corporate concert not too long ago. But for them to do something like this, I mean, it shows that they still care about music as a whole, you know.
Well, yeah, and their newer stuff, like, you know, even, you know, the much aligned Saint Anger and, you know, the actually a lot better Death Magnetic kind of started pointing back in some of that old school direction that they used to do. So, you know, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's good. Good one on them.
All right, so there's another news topic we wanted to talk about since we are huge Sturgill Simpson fans, which leads into country music. Brent, you want to take this one?
I'm sure, I guess country fans anyway, have heard the comments by the Sony executive here at their latest little awards deal or whatever. I don't remember exactly how it was all set up, but he ended up making the comment that if you're not played on country radio, you don't exist. And that just is there anything that sums up today's like pop country more than that arrogant statement?
I think that sums up music in general.
Yeah, it does. And the sad thing is, I thought Aaron Watson, I'm not a huge fan of his, but, I got a little respect from what he said. He had the #1 record in all of country music the week that this guy said that. And the only stations he's played on is, like, in his home area of Texas.
Yeah, that's saying something.
Yeah, and he's out selling all the bro countries and, all the little whatever the crap you call that Sam Hunt stuff. And, I was just like, wow. I'd never even heard of the guy, honestly, Bad on me, I guess. But I just thought that was funny. And the guy said, Aaron Watson told him, he's like, look, I had the #1 record in country in country music, and I'm not played on the radio, and I do exist. And these people do, and just to make that statement is so arrogant.
Yeah, and I liked the comment, was it Florida Georgia Line? They commented something trying to to me it kind of came off as they're trying to play both sides there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, hell, that's Florida Georgia Line.
They suck. Hey, guys, you want to come on the show? Come on the show. We'll talk about how terrible you are, bro country garbage.
Well, yeah, and, because I know one of the guys, and forgive me, I cannot remember his name. I thought I had it written down, but I don't. Actually specifically mentioned Florida Georgia Line in some of his comments. And that's kind of where they got involved into the whole mess. And, all he was saying, he wasn't really calling them out per se, specifically. He was just calling out that genre of music which they, typify.
Exactly.
And, so they inject themselves into this little debate. And like you said, it was this stupid answer that, really made no sense. And it was like they were trying to play both sides but yet stand up for themselves. And they end up coming off looking like basically a couple of douchebags.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So, I don't know. Like I said, you got your Sturgill Simpsons and all them, and, those people do exist, and that's, part of why, we started doing this show was to try to do what we could to get, some of these bands out there, because the music matters, and there's some great music out there if you dig.
Yeah, and if you're an unsigned band, like I said, hit us up, thevaultmusic1@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter, thevaultmusic1. We actually have some pretty exciting stuff planned, and we're looking for some more unsigned bands to come along and contact us so we can try to put some stuff together to get some more music out to everybody. So let's get back to the rivalries topic for today's show. The next one on my list was Leonard Skinner versus Neil Young. Are you familiar with this one?
Yeah, a little bit. Just the Sweet Home Alabama kind of,
Yeah, basically them just throwing barbs back and forth at each other through songs, and it wasn't, it didn't seem malicious, but you'd hear the song and you'd immediately know what the other one was talking about, and I kind of missed that. It was almost like a rivalry, but it wasn't like death threats like some of these other ones, or some of them they did die, some of them had the other one killed or whatever. So I heard stories of one of them wearing the other band's shirt while they sang the song against that band, which I think is hilarious.
Right.
What's next on your list?
I actually went a completely different direction so far than what you have, and the one that kind of really stood out to me was Tupac and Biggie.
Yeah, that one was on my list too.
I was a huge fan of Tupac. That was honestly where I got my start in rap. I mean, I'd heard some of the earlier stuff, but as far as actual hardcore rap stuff, it was Tupac that got me into it. And, as a white guy from the Midwest, for what that means, if I had to pick sides, I would have picked West, Coast versus East Coast rap.
Right, but, yeah, me too.
But it was just, that shows, kind of how powerful that rivalry was, because those two completely typified the entire rivalry. And, in the early, mid-'90s, they were the rivalry. And you had, white guys from the sticks down here that, what the hell do we know about rap? Picking West Coast versus East Coast.
Exactly. And for me, MTV was a big exposure on that to me, because they were really starting to kick out the hip-hop and rap and through the early to mid-'90s. And I remember when Tupac was killed, I actually had just gotten done playing a baseball game at a tournament in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you want to talk about, us white guys in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the United States picking sides. I remember somebody had a newspaper and they're like, I look like Tupac's dead, and it just, I don't know, I don't even know what to say. Like, I was kind of in shock. As the first time, like, I actually cared what happened to a musician. And then later, the same thing happened with Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah, it was actually just a few months later is what got me, because it seemed like a whole lot longer time from when one was shot to the other one.
Yeah.
But no, I remember hearing, like you know, he was shot, and I was like, what? And, you know, and then his Don Illuminati CD came out, and I dove into that thing just, you know, head first. Got in, because
Right.
if you've ever dissected that album, it is just paranoid conspiracy stuff left and right, and there's so many little bitty things on that, like just kind of whispers you have to hear with it turned up way high and all that. And I mean, I just delved right into it. I thought it was great. I mean, you know, I was hoping to, you know, kind of for a time being the one, you know, oh, Tupac's really not dead, you know, and all this and that stuff. But it amazed me. Like you said, you know, it was one of the first times I ever cared that, you know, this guy just got shot.
That was the first, like I said, it was the first time I really felt that way about a musician that had died, like, or just in general. Like, I had this feeling like it was part of me or something, you know, like I said, and that's kind of what kicked off music. Being like, I'm like, okay, I'm really passionate about music now. That was just kind of the final straw there, and we'll keep it going with some hip hop. How about Dr. Dre and Eazy-E back in the day?
Yeah, see, I was never really like understanding what all was going on until I started researching for this. That was actually kind of wild.
I totally agree. I remember seeing them making fun of each other in the video. Do you remember? I don't remember it was what song it was. It was a Dr. Dre video, and I can't remember. He had one of the guys from another artist, like I'm name's escaping me right now, but he was like a dwarf or something, making fun of Eazy-E, dressed up like him and everything, and they were making fun of him through the whole thing. And I was like, okay, I know this Eazy-E guy. What's going on here? And then I didn't even know of NWA at the time. Again, you know, we're white kids in the Midwest that know nothing in the early '90s, so there's no internet at the time. We can't just look this stuff up.
Right.
Any last things on that?
No, not really, honestly. I mean, it was something that I wasn't even honestly really aware of until, you know, today, really. So, I mean, that sounds terrible. Forgive me, but
A lot of that has to do with the internet. It's like I said, you know, we find out a lot of stuff once the internet's prominent. You can just Google whatever you want, and I mean, even there's newer bands that break up or get back together or have new members or have members die, and you don't even know about it until one day you're like, I wonder what's up with this band, and you type it in and Google it, like, whoa, they've had 5 albums come out lately. You know, it's just
right.
Crazy stuff like that happens all the time. So, what's next on your list?
I've actually got Johnny Cash and the Grand Ole Opry. It was something, again, I knew that he had been kind of kicked out. I wasn't really 100% on all the details and everything. But, yeah, I mean, you heard about that, haven't you?
Yeah, a little bit.
You know, it was just a little bit after he got picked up with, like, I don't know, over 1,000 some odd pills in his guitar case coming out of Mexico.
Yeah.
And, you know, Johnny Cash wasn't exactly, you know, a stand-up guy his entire life. Love him to death, love his music, but, you know, let's just be honest about it. And he got on the Grand Ole Opry stage completely stoned out of his mind. I guess his mic stand screwed up, so he proceeded to smash the floor lights at the Grand Ole Opry.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I saw that, and I'm like, okay, that just completely summarizes everything about Johnny Cash for me.
See, that's what we need him to do, except he needs to, like, book a festival with the bro country bands and then sabotage every single one of them, and then all of a sudden he headlines.
Yeah, just smash the bro country bands. Forget the lights, just smash the bands.
Next up, Florida Georgia Line. Oh, sorry guys, technical difficulties.
Nice.
Next up, Blake Shelton. Oh, sorry guys, he missed his flight. All right, looks like I'm gonna play. Here comes Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
All right, I got a couple of humorous ones coming up next. We'll get on to like a little bit more of a serious one. Kanye West versus the world. What is the deal with this guy? Like, I don't understand, and we probably shouldn't even be giving him the airtime. Not like we're big or anything, but
Right.
I just don't understand. Like, this guy. I don't know. What do you think? I don't even know what to say.
I have never. There might be one song that somebody could play, be like, oh, hey, you know this song, and it's not too bad, and I might be like, okay, yeah, I didn't know that was him. But I have never really understood the whole thing with Kanye West. And for the past like year and a half, every time the guy's opened his mouth, I've thought he's become more crazy. I mean, just completely like psychotically unhinged type crazy. He doesn't make any sense when he talks, and just seems and he's like pissing everybody off.
Yeah, that's why I said versus the world. I don't know what his deal is. Like, you'll see artists that don't like other artists or have their own opinion or something. They'll voice it on Twitter, they'll put it on Facebook, or they'll put it in a magazine article, whatever it is. But whose right is it to jump in front of somebody on an award show? And it's not like it was, this is what happened 2 or 3 times now. And
oh yeah, something like that.
I just don't understand it. There's like Metallica wasn't happy about Jethro Tull winning the first metal Grammy, but they didn't storm the stage and freak out on anybody, like take that guy's flute and like hit him with it or anything like that. And
yeah,
that's what it seems to be a Kanye. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only one that's similar is whenever John Denver had his award burned on stage.
I don't remember that.
John Denver was winning like country music, like album of the year or something, and the guy gets up there and literally burns his award right there, like in front of John Denver while he's on a satellite feed.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like John Denver burned his own award, and I'm like,
no,
that doesn't
no,
sound
no,
like
no.
something John Denver. Okay, all right.
No, yeah, he had it burned in front of him. Let me clarify, say it that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up. That's pretty interesting. So,
yeah.
What do you got next?
The next one I have goes a whole lot more serious, and it goes into a whole different genre of music, and that would be into the black metal scene. And what is, as routinely, I searched for about 4 or 5 hours today, and this was always #1, like, most extreme band feud. And that was the whole Euronymous death.
Oh, with Mayhem, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, where Varg, like, stabs him 23 times and kind of half claimed it was self-defense. And
then before that, you had the lead singer dead, killing himself, and Euronymous, supposedly taking pieces of his brain and skull, and there's pictures circulating. I mean, you can one of their albums, I think it was a bootleg or something maybe, that they actually had that picture as the album cover.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can find it online. So
you've got the guitar player not killing the singer, but kind of helping assist it almost. And so you got the singer dead, and then you got the guitar player and Varg battling it out, and Varg kills. I mean, it's and that band is kind of been a revolving door. They keep putting albums out, and they keep somehow being pretty good, but there are members. It's just like this weird curse around them or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that though in black metal. I mean, there for a while it was almost like a running gag because, like, everybody was trading everybody out for all the other bands. I mean, everybody was in Cradle of Filth at one point or in, Dimmu. And it was just like everybody kind of circled around. It's like, well, who's got this drummer today? Oh, it's that guy. Okay.
And, one thing actually that you bring that up, I think it's kind of cool. Like, do you think that has anything to do with, like, how tight-knit of a community it is? I mean, you could say the same thing about some of the punk and hardcore bands. You see the members rotate. You never see that with metal very much because I think sometimes those guys are like too big of egomaniacs. But it seems like black metal and punk, like the members rotate all the time. So do you think that's something to do with the tight-knit community?
Well, it could very well be because, you see a lot of them, they're always doing, like, how many of those black metal guys have, 3 or 4, 5, 6 bands that he's, working with, writing songs for.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And all that. And yeah, so I mean, black metal's a very kind of specialized genre. I mean, it's definitely not for everybody. I mean, it's almost the less popular your music is, the better.
Exactly.
So I would say that's part of it. But then also, I hate to say it because, I'm a fan of black metal, but some of those guys are just plain weird.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree.
There's got to be some friction in some of that. I mean, you get some seriously weird people together, and, you're either going to have some really good music or some really bad fights. And, I think that happens a lot, too. So.
Yeah, speaking of weird, I think it was, I watched the documentary on Mayhem, and I could be wrong on this as far as, like, the members, but I think it was the singer dead. They asked him if he wanted to join the band or come to audition or something like that. And I think I remember him sending I don't remember which other member he sent it to, but he sent them like a dead, decaying mouse that was like crucified on a little cross or something like that. And if you know, I mean, you got to be a little off your rocker to do something like that.
Oh yeah, but I mean, look at it. I mean, these are the same people that got together and bombed churches and burned them down. Just for I say for the fun of it, they were actually making a political kind of point, but still, I mean, you can make political points without setting a church on fire.
But that's part of that genre. That genre is just shrouded by mystery and chaos and controversy, and that's part of what gravitates people to it. That's not what gravitated me to it. It was definitely more of the dark craziness and the lo-fi quality of the original old stuff, and I was like, whoa, this is extreme, and for not even being that heavy, it was for all different other kind of reasons, not imagery or anything else really for me. So, well, we're getting way off topic. I'll get back to another rivalry. This one's a little bit amusing. Axl Rose versus the Clock. This guy does not know how to tell time, apparently, because every single time I've read about him going out on a concert, he makes the fans wait like 3, 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever. He takes the stage at like 3 a.m. Like, I don't understand that at all. Do you have any take on that?
Well, as far as Axl Rose goes, you could do just like Kanye West, him versus the world, and apparently the Clock as well. I've never been in a position to see Axl Rose live in any way, shape, or form. I've heard stories about mutual friends we have whose parents, like acquaintances, have met him and said that like it actually kind of corroborates your story there because they were supposed to have some sort of legal meeting and he had to be there to sign this stuff. He came in like 2 or 3 hours late, wearing like ratty, like dirty, holy PJs, and said it didn't seem like he had even bathed. It looked like for a couple days. And you think he may feel okay if he's on the road or whatever, that's great, but I guess he'd been staying at a hotel for like a couple weeks. And, so it's just, I don't know. Axl Rose, I think, is just a total head case.
All right. Do you have any more? I got one more on my list.
No, what else you got, man?
This is kind of comical, but I'm going to take his defense, and that's Dave Mustaine versus the world. I don't understand what everybody's problem is with this guy. Like, I think maybe they don't like him because he likes to voice his opinion, and this is metal. Apparently, you're supposed to not voice your opinion. And there's a lot of he disagrees. His political views, religious views, views on music, views on life. A lot of that just totally contradicts the traditional metal outlook on everything. And I think a lot of people just hate on him because of that, or because maybe think he's an egomaniac or anything like that. But Megadeth always puts out good stuff. He's collaborated with people. He wrote, part of that. We were talking about that Metallica tape earlier. He played on a lot of that. So what's your take on Dave Mustaine?
I've always liked Megadeth. Like you, I never really truly understood the overall vitriol surrounding him. I mean, it's like nobody likes him. I mean, hell, even the guitar player left, I think, because he didn't like him.
Yeah. They only I think Megadeth only has like 2 members right now.
Yeah, and it's like, man, you got to think somewhere in there, you've got to have like an egomaniac in Dave Mustaine. I mean, he's got to be a hard person to live with. But at the same time, like you said, he's always put out good stuff. I mean, I've read, things from him, and he doesn't seem like an idiot. I mean, he's not a stupid guy. I guess part of the trouble with Metallica was he was into drugs and booze and stuff, but look how it turned out for Metallica later on.
Oh, look how it turned out for both of them, really. I mean,
yeah.
We ended up getting two good bands out of it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the early Megadeth stuff I absolutely loved. Through, Writings. I loved Cryptic Writings. I thought that one was great.
I did too, actually.
There were, a couple after that I wasn't real keen on, but, I mean, it was still decent. I mean, it's better than most of what's out there. But, yeah like you said, there's just kind of this just air of hatred that surrounds Dave Mustaine everywhere he goes. And you wonder if it's not just almost like kind of a cult of personality. It's like, oh, it's Dave Mustaine. Everybody must hate him.
Yeah, so. That could be it. And you know what? I mean, I hate to say this, but you said, maybe he's a little bit smarter than your typical people that are in that community. I mean, I'm sure we'd both agree that we've ran into our share of metalheads at shows, and some of them are just flat out idiots.
Oh yeah.
We're there to see the show and hear some good music, but some of these people are just there to get wasted and run around and cause problems. And I know, like you said, that Mustaine, we had heard that was kind of his personality years back in Metallica with the booze and drugs and everything. He would get violent, and that's understandable. But like, I don't know how that reputation could continue to follow him if he's sober. It just doesn't make any sense. So, anything else on your list?
No, I know you had mentioned just like kind of genre rivalries, and I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit. I mean, we've had some kind of personal experience with a little bit of the genre rivalries.
Yeah, go ahead.
You were there whenever we kind of got thrown out of a concert. I mean, it was what all was there? I remember there was a couple death metal bands, like some really good ones, hardcore and.
Yeah, see, this is the problem with people and music nowadays. We're trying to bring all different genres and people from every walk of life together with this website, with this podcast. And the problem is that these little cliques, these music scenes, these people that get in these scenes, they got to look a certain way, to dress a certain way, to listen to a certain type of music. And we had a guy that put the show together, and he's like, I'm trying to do something different. So he brought, a punk band, a death metal band, metalcore, some hardcore, and then maybe like some grindcore or some just stuff that just didn't fit anything. And you had these little cliques of people that were there to see certain bands, and you could definitely tell, like, the death metal guys were just sitting there banging their heads. That's all they were doing. Yep. And then you had the hardcore guys causing problems. I'll let you take the rest of that.
Well, there was the one guy that was, we're in a hall that's probably not, that thing was maybe 20 feet wide? Maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
This was literally like an art studio until the concert. And so, that should tell, everybody enough right there. This thing is not really well designed for, a heavy metal concert of any type. So we have this guy that's bouncing from wall to wall. You could tell the guy's at least drunk out of his mind. Who knows what else is going on with him. And he's literally just flying from wall to wall as fast as he can, doing that little hardcore dance thing, all this and that, and he's hitting people left and right, knocked a couple people down. I think he was the one that we found out was actually spraying pepper spray in the crowd.
Yeah, somebody was doing, yeah.
Just overall, just kind of being a pain in the ass, and just kind of a jerk. And, well, one of the guys that we were with is not a small individual, and he didn't take well to seeing a couple of the girls get knocked down. One of them had a drink spilled all over because he just flew into her elbows first. He caught my friend in the neck with an elbow. And like I said, my friend warned him once, and the guy proceeded to do it again. And to make a short story long, the fight ended up, proceeding. And my friend and I, I'm trying to keep, all these little hardcore, whatever fans, from mobbing this one guy who didn't like getting hit with an elbow. And, so I'm trying to pull them all off him, and he's trying to, push his way through and all this and that. And it was like, we were the ones that got kicked out for it because this guy was being a dick.
Yeah, and it was like 20 people to push him, the one person, out. That was the other funny thing about it.
Oh, no, that was hilarious, because, you've got all these guys sitting here in, the little NBA-style ball jerseys, trying to push this guy, and what they didn't know was he was a former college lineman.
Yeah.
So, and it looked kind of silly, honestly, but, he wasn't trying to hurt anybody. It was just, this guy had been flying around hitting people, and it's like, good God, people. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you?
And one thing, I thought was funny, we got home, and I was... we don't know exactly what was going on before or after or anything. So after the show, I remember getting home and checking the actual bands that played that night, checking their Facebook pages, and all those bands were doing was like, oh, if you can't take it in the pit, then you need to get out, or, oh, somebody's got some pit beef. And I'm like, that's pretty ridiculous of the bands to even, acknowledge that. They should instead be like, hey, let's break it up. Like, I remember seeing a video on YouTube, it's still out there, where Cephalic Carnage is playing a show and there's a fight that breaks out, and they start playing Eye of the Tiger while the fight's going on. And then they stop playing. They're like, no, seriously, guys, let's get along. We're here to listen to some metal and have a good time and not cause a bunch of problems. So that was just a generalized concert thing. We had talked a little bit about how we don't go to too many concerts anymore, and that's one reason why, because a lot of times you get, regardless of the scenes, you get these people in there that just are wanting to cause problems, and with you not being able to be armed in most of these places, I just don't want any part of it. And it seems to be the more aggressive. I mean, you remember when we went and saw Spirit Caravan, most people there are kind of all like-minded, they're there to just sit back and listen to music. It is, and you can't say it about a certain genre either, because even though there wasn't many people there, you remember the Abigail Williams show, that's pretty extreme music. And so you would think, oh, well, it's aggressive, it's extreme, there's going to be fights and people want to kill each other, but that wasn't the case at all. It was very tame, even though there wasn't very many people there. They were there to see the bands play, and I just don't understand why people get caught up in these scenes. And another thing is, like, I got two examples actually. I went and saw Tech Nine long time ago, and then I remember going to see Twisted and some other psychopathic rap artists. And both times, like, I was the only one. I just had like some metal band shirt on and like jeans, just pretty plain. And man, did I ever get the looks, like people that are all like thugged out. It didn't have anything to do with race. Yeah. It was just they were all thugged out and like mean mugging me, looking me up and down like I didn't belong. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I'm here to check out some music. It shouldn't matter what genre it is. What else you got to add on that?
I remember one of the Ozfests we went to. It was the first time I'd ever seen Hatebreed. And I remember, their pits would get pretty ridiculous. And, but I remember them on stage, at Ozfest, they were on the second stage whenever we saw them, and your mosh pit was on a parking lot. I mean, you were on asphalt. And so, you fell down, you got scratched up pretty good. But I remember, they were like, all right, let's get this pit started. But if somebody falls, you pick them up. We're all brothers here. And it's like, that's a fantastic sentiment for how the music should be. And, you're there to have a good time. If you want to mosh, that's great. Go mosh. It's not my thing, but if it's yours, God bless you. And, but just, like you said, try to help bring everybody together with music instead of all the scene stuff. And, it's like you had said, one of the best concerts I've ever been to in my entire life was when we got to see Cannibal Corpse. And everybody there was awesome.
Yes, totally agree.
I mean, it was one of the most brutal shows I've ever seen in my life. It literally felt like I was there for a 6-hour ass kicking.
Yep.
And I mean, I physically hurt the next day, and all I did was stand there and kind of in awe and bang my head, as you're supposed to at a Cannibal Corpse show. And
we didn't have any problems at that show, and it was packed too, and there was plenty of moshing and all that stuff, and people were picking each other up, and you even see some girls getting in there, and the guys weren't just decking the girls or anything like that. They were trying to let them have fun but protect them at the same time. It was a total blast.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it was great. Like I said, but there again, you don't have your different genres there, on all that, and that seems every show I've been to that I've ever seen, quote unquote problems, it's always been kind of your mixed shows like that. And
which is really sad. I mean, and that's what we're trying. Yeah, that's what we're trying to stop. But at the same time, I remember going to I think it was like Norma Jean or something, kind of one of those kind of borderline, hardcore screamo, whatever you want to call them. I don't even know. But I remember going to see them, and I had dreadlocks at the time, and I'm just sitting there in line. And down the street, Dope was playing, and this was kind of past their prime. New metal stuff was really dying out. And they were playing down the street, and there wasn't hardly anybody back there. And, of course, Norma Jean was drawn in a bunch of the emo kids and a bunch of hardcore kids. And there's people standing behind me, and they're like, what's going on down the street? And somebody's like, oh, Dope's playing. They're like, oh, isn't that stupid band where they all have colored dreadlocks? And, here I am sitting right in front of them with dreadlocks. They didn't say anything to me, and that show ended up being pretty smooth. But that's just something stupid that it doesn't matter how you want to dress or what you want to look like, or if you want to look like a certain type of genre. If you feel that's what you need to do to fit in, that's fine. But if you're going to a show, don't discriminate against other people because they like a different kind of music or something. I mean, just think about it. If we felt that way, if we were all going to just one type of show or listen to one type of music, there'd be no way we'd be doing this podcast. we wouldn't have any idea about half the bands we know. We wouldn't try to expand our mind. Oh, let's check out this band. Oh, this band's cool too. This kind of sounds cool. You wouldn't be able to do that if you're so close-minded on that. So.
Well, no, and one thing, if you're going to give somebody a little gentle ribbing or something about it, that's fine. Do it in a fun, way. Because I remember whenever Jamie from 3 Inches of Blood sat there and made fun of your Cinderella shirt.
Oh, yeah. He told me that the only way that they would talk to me and sign my ticket is if I burned it after the show.
Yeah. But, they ended up being a bunch of really cool dudes. And, that was a great show, too. But I thought that was kind of funny, though, that they sat there and made fun of your Cinderella shirt.
Yeah, and with talking about that, we give the bro country bands a hard time. But, hey, if they come on the show, I'm going to ask them these straight-up questions, and it's not going to be anything personal with them. If they say, if they were to say, hey, we really don't like what we're playing, but this is where the money is, I'd be like, okay, well, that settles that, and there'd be no, problems or anything. Or if they came on and said, this is really what we like to do, or, you guys are idiots with your little podcast or whatever, at least we'd have a discussion about something and not just throw these barbs at each other for no apparent reason. And I'm sure we could agree on something at some point.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the thing is, we may talk about, about Blake Shelton and, Sam Hunts of the world and all that, but we don't, hate them as people. It's not at all. It's their music that, we think sucks. But, yeah, if they want to come on, any of them, I don't even care if it's an up and right, whatever, bro country, hell, we'll even talk with some bro country fans.
Yeah, definitely.
And, so if you're a bro country fan and you keep hearing us, you're talking about rivalries, but yet you keep going after my bro country, hey, contact us through Twitter, Facebook, email, whatever. And you know what? We'll figure out time. We'll get you on, and you can defend it. We'll give you open platform to defend your genre.
Again, that's thevaultmusic1@gmail.com, on Twitter @thevaultmusic1, or on facebook.com/thevaultrvws. Let us. Oh, and YouTube too. You can leave comments on YouTube. Let us know. If you want to come on the show, if you're just a diehard fan of a certain genre that we've trashed, or honestly, I think that's the only genre we've talked bad about, because that's the only genre where I really can't find one artist that I'm like, most of this sucks, but I really like this guy. Can you think of anything?
Not really. I kind of went after pop music, but honestly, after hearing some of this latest batch of stuff, I have to honestly change my answer back into total agreement with you. And like you said, I can't find any at all that I actually like out of bro country. And even this new, I don't know, have you heard the new, Sam Hunt stuff?
No, I have not. Because, a lot of the bro country I'm hearing is kind of the stuff that they've been playing, on satellite radio at work, or if you're at a store and they're playing it, which it's always, maybe 6 months behind.
Well, I say new. I have no idea how old it is. But I've read a couple things about how this is kind of the new direction country music's taking, and let's all pray that it's not. Because it's almost, there's no country to it, except he has a little bit of a twang in his voice.
And you have to wonder if that twang is fake also.
Well, right. Because all it is, it's like spoken word, almost like electronic type stuff. And they're calling this country, and it's like, okay, if you like the music, that's great, but can we, for the love of God, quit calling it country?
Yeah, exactly. It's pop music.
Yeah. And
or in some cases, it's kind of rock music, even like your mainstream rock.
Well, yeah, a lot of that bro country stuff honestly is. And it just, for some reason, I guess they think because it talks about drinking beer on a back road with some bimbo in the seat that makes it country, which
with tight jeans and a small town with a water tower and the moon up, and yeah.
Yep.
Look at that. We just wrote a country song. Why aren't we not making millions? I'm sure we could put on some fake twangs or something like that. It's just that is the only genre that makes me mad. I don't understand it. And a lot of the people would say, well, you could say the same thing about death metal. You could say the same thing. Well, yeah, you could, but many times when you look at death metal bands, they're just not trashing anything else, and they're like, well, this is who we are. It's usually the fans that are usually throwing the barbs back at each other and arguing, not the bands. Like, the bands are just like, whatever. I mean, I remember seeing a thing with Cannibal Corpse, so they're like, yeah, we still listen to Judas Priest and blah, blah, blah. Well, like, fast forward to today, if there was a band that sounded like Cannibal Corpse, but there was a band sounding like Judas Priest, that they might have some kind of friction because one doesn't sound like another, or one isn't true, or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that actually makes me remember like an old, just what I find to be hilarious kind of rivalry, and that's Cannibal Corpse and Bob Dole.
Yes.
I mean, that just, to me, that sums up Cannibal Corpse. That whole thing's just hilarious to me. And, the fact that Bob Dole's in on it just makes it even better. So.
Yeah, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, just Google it. You'll figure it out, and hopefully you'll have a good laugh out of it. So.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So we'll close out the show with that. Guys, again, just put the scenes aside, put the genres aside, listen to music, tell people about music, talk about it, share it, whatever you got to do. You're not going to advance in your mentality of music if you're not talking about it and being considerate. You can not like something. We don't like bro country, but we're also not saying those people are terrible. And we just invited everybody on the show. So again, if you're a fan of bro country, if you're a bro country artist, or if you're Florida Georgia Line, come on our podcast and we'll just talk some music. We don't even have to. I'd like to get some opinions on, some of these people. What did they grow up listening to? What are they currently listening to? Because that can also change some people's opinions too. So, anything else to add?
I'm good.
All right, guys. Again, thevaultmusic1@gmail.com, at thevaultmusic1 on Twitter, facebook.com/thevaultrvws, and check out our YouTube page. Unsigned bands, please get a hold of us. We got some projects we're putting together in the future. It's hopefully going to be really awesome. And just keep checking us out. Thanks again for listening. See ya.
Peace.